listen, firstly, thanks for taking this time to chat to us. Is this the biggest event ever in women's boxing in Ireland? Certainly.
100%. Not only in women's boxing, in Irish boxing, but I think in Irish sports, it's one of the biggest events that we're going to stage in Ireland. It's absolutely amazing.
Are you a little disappointed it's not in Croke Park, though?
Listen, I think we're all a little bit disappointed that, you know, how brilliant would it have been to be in Croke Park, to have that atmosphere, you know, to really celebrate one of Ireland's greatest athletes. But I'm glad that we have it in the Three Arena. I'm glad that we do have an event now, and we do have something that the Irish fans can enjoy and support, and an event that they can get behind, Casey. It would have been incredible for Croke Park, but look, we're here now. We're at the Three Arena, so.
Listen, you obviously know the ins and outs of the boxing world, and obviously this is 22 fights in now. This is our 23rd fight coming up, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Why is it taking this long? Because I'm sure Katie would have loved to have a fight back home, but why is it taking this long to get it back to Ireland?
I think, you know, Irish boxing, we've kind of had this history of having to go abroad. I think any of the athletes that have gone before, the boxers that have gone before Katie, you know, they have gone to Europe, they've gone to America, and I think for a while there was a bit of a dip in boxing. I think the amateur scene kind of led the way for a while, and there wasn't a lot of pros on the circuit. But now Katie is at that point in her career where, you know, the legacy is done. She's created the legacy, and then we have all these other guys, Kevin Aguiarco, Gary Cully, you know, all these different boxers who are now at that, you know, on the way to elite level. So there's a card here, I suppose. That's what promoters will look for when they go to put on a card, is, you know, a main event that's going to sell tickets, and then a really strong Irish undercard underneath it. And they have that now with the undercard that they have.
Chantelle Cameron, is she a real threat to Katie's crown?
She absolutely is. Yeah, you know, there's always a debate when Katie goes to fight, because we love her so much in Ireland. We're so proud of her. She's achieved so much in terms of, you know, the Olympic background, her amateur background, you know, breaking down borders. In terms of, you know, when she started, there's all those stories of, you know, her dad putting her into amateur junior bouts and having her head guard on, going into the ring because no one was to know that she was a girl, so pretending that she was a boy to get this, you know, whether it be sparring or competition. And all along that way, people have kind of looked at her opponents, and, you know, they've gone, oh, she's an easy win, it's an easy win, it's not a 50-50 fight. She's now at that level where everyone is a threat. Chantelle is a you know, undisputed champion in her weight class. She's an incredible fighter. She's tough, she's durable, you know, she's young, she's hungry, which I think is a major factor in this fight. For Chantelle to win, she breaks history, you know. So when Matchroom and DAZN put out that this is a historic week and a historic event and a historic fight in this main event, they're not wrong. It's an incredible opportunity for both women involved.
Just reading a few notes from Katie's coach, and he was saying that, you know, she's still as focused as ever. She's 36, and we'll get to that point in a second. But he also said that she's possibly more focused than she was when she fought Amanda Serrano. Do you believe she's still at the top of her game despite the age?
I mean, you know, there's science, you know, there's people out there that will kind of argue that, you know, there's a scientific fact that at this age, she's on a decline in terms of a professional athlete that's kind of had her peak or gone past her peak, perhaps. But I really do feel that in the kind of spirit of Katie, in her dedication to her craft, I don't think we've seen that before. Or if we have seen it, we've seen it with a very, very small amount of athletes. You know, there's very few behind the scenes that really live the lifestyle, live a clean lifestyle, don't cut corners, and stay dedicated to being a professional athlete. And I have to say, in my, you know, all my years of working within boxing, within combat sports, I've never met an athlete that is more committed to the game than Katie Taylor.
And listen, is she going up in weight class as well? And does that make much of a difference?
It absolutely does, yeah. And she is You know, and that again is testament to how great a champion that she is. One of the more frustrating elements of boxing is, you know, you'll hear it all the time, in particular with Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. You know, there's always this conversation of why don't they just fight each other? You know, we had the current heavyweight champion of the world, Alexander Usyk. There was talk there for a while that he was going to face Tyson Fury. These fights don't get made. They fall apart because of, you know, egos, because of money, because of small, minute details. Katie was completely different. They had this fight done. I mean, they had pitched for this to be the Amanda Serrano rematch. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be. And, you know, literally overnight, they had this opportunity then for Chantelle Cameron both champions to come together and to challenge each other for their undisputed belts. And, you know, that's very, very rare in boxing at that level, that fights get made that easily, and that champions as esteemed as Katie and as Chantelle will put it all on the line and you know, risk everything.
Who wins?
Well, you know this game, and you know I have to sit on the fence and be unbiased. Look, you know, Katie is a hero of mine. I've grown up admiring her. You know, I've taken so much inspiration from her as a woman working in a male-dominated sport. She's broken so many barriers. She's done it with such grace and such skill, and just she's an incredible human being, not only athletes. And Chantelle is a very good friend of mine. So, you know, I'll be watching behind two hands on Saturday night. But I really do think that, you know, they're two really, really great champions. They both deserve it. And it's really hard to tell, you know, whose fight it will be on the night, because it's anyone's, and it's a really, really 50-50 fight. We don't often get 50-50 fights at this level, but we really do have one on Saturday night. So it is going to be a case of who brings it, you know, and is it going to be a case of the old versus the new, you know, the old dog versus this new dog that comes in. But you know what? Whoever wins, there'll be no denying or undenying their greatness.
And just from that, do you think this is a tougher fight for Katie than the Amanda Serrano fight?
You know, no fight at this level is easy for any fighter. Every fight is tough. Every fight has their risks. But in a certain degree, because, you know, Amanda was the smaller fighter. So if we look at it from that level, certainly she had the skill set, and she has, you know, she is a champion in her own right, in her own weight classes, in several weight classes. But Chantelle is that higher weight class. She does walk around out of camp at a higher weight. You know, there is that risk there, but Katie's camp and Katie's fans will say that she has the skill set to withstand any weight. But it will be a test, because, you know, if we look at the men's division, Canelo, you saw his first loss to Bivol, a much bigger fighter, a much stronger fighter. And it was the cockiness of his undefeated records and his greatness that said, you know what, I'm going to put it on the line. I'm going to fight a bigger fighter, and my skill set will win that. And anyone who watched the fight will see that unfortunately he didn't. So it could be a case with Katie on Saturday night that, you know, Chantelle is too big, too strong for her, and she can't implement her game plan. But I would be confident in Katie's skill set. But again, it's just about, you know, who shows up on the night and who has the better game plan.
Has she gone up before, Katie? I can't remember now.
She has gone up, and she's gone up in weight class in her amateur days as well. So she is used to going up, not at this level. She's never fought in this division before in her professional career. So it, you know, I don't doubt that all corners have been covered, and she'll be sparring with heavier fighters. You know, she's been bringing in a lot of, fighters over the years into her camp. She's very adamant that she brings in a lot of Irish fighters. We recently saw that she had an amateur champion, Amy Broadhurst, in with her as well, who's a fantastic champion in her own right, and we're sure will do amazing things in the pro division. So, you know, if someone's going to say me who's more prepared, I don't doubt for a second that Katie has, you know, spent this training camp and a lot of her sparring with much heavier opponents to be prepared for what Chantelle can bring on Saturday night.
And listen, just a couple of questions then left. Obviously, we talked about the age, but, you know, we can throw people like Bernard Hopkins and stuff like that back into the ring. I think he fought in 2001. People said, well, that's him done now. And he went on another, what,
Yeah,
15 years or something. So,
yeah. Well,
um,
Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson are doing exhibitions at the moment. So,
who
they're pushing
knows?
50.
Well, what's next for her? Because, every time you see Katie, she seems to have a new belt to the point of she can't carry them all.
Yeah.
What what is next for her in her world? Does she continue? Do you think she'll still have the appetite to continue to fight for another 5 years, or do you think no, she's coming towards the end? Where would you stand on that?
Well, I mean, it's certainly, as someone who works in the media and who is a lover of boxing and of combat sports, it would never be my um, standpoint to say on whether an athlete should retire. That conversation really should only be for, I mean, we can discuss it and we can say what if and what should happen, but really to say, she needs to retire or she needs to do this or do that, that's down to her team and her coaches. But what I will say is, you do get to a point in a professional career, not just with boxing, with any sport, that there comes a time where the athlete finds it really, really difficult to say, that's it. I hang my hat up now, and that's my legacy created. Because they're fighters, they're athletes, they're naturally competitive. They achieve one goal, and then straight away there's a bigger goal that's put in front of them, and then that's the next step that they have to drive on and push towards and achieve. That's how it works for them from a kind of a sports psychology type of way. So it does mean that the coaches and the teams around these fighters have to say, we maybe have gone past their peak and we may be on a bit of decline. But as long as she keeps winning, it's very hard to say that, she should retire or that her day is done. I think, should it happen that she does lose on Saturday night, I imagine that I can't see her retiring after a loss on Saturday night. But I can see that being the start of a conversation within her camp of, is it a case now that the new breed are coming through? They do have a skill set that matches yours or a skill set that's better? And is it just the natural process of age that is kind of going against us now? So it will, not only will it be a really historic, very interesting fight in terms of the legacy of both these fighters, but if Katie does lose, then it is that case of, that conversation will come up, and I think it'll be a little bit more frequent.
But is there much left for her to achieve? You could kind of say, oh, she could fight for this, or she hasn't got that belt or whatever, but it's kind of like she's nearly done everything. So it's kind of hard to see. She obviously is naturally motivated, but what there is left.
Absolutely, and there really isn't much left. There's I don't see her going down any lower in weight, and I definitely don't see her going up any higher in weight after, above Chantelle's division. So it is that case of, the legacy is done now. I think no matter what happens on Saturday night, her legacy is created. People will always remember her as the greatest Irish athlete of all time. But I do feel that, as a fan and purely as a boxing fan, I think there is this element that I would love to see her win on Saturday night, become this undisputed two-way world champion, and for her to bow out and just to have it all kind of come in. And this is the legacy, with the amateur records, the Olympics, and then the pro records, because it's inevitable that the older that she gets and the tougher fights at this level that she takes, it's inevitable that, she is going to lose and she will eventually be beat. It is, no one can defy, time and age and the younger guys and women that are coming up behind. So I would love to see her bow out with a massive win on Saturday night, but I doubt that will be the case.
I think Floyd Mayweather might disagree, but anyway, that's the one for another day. Listen, quickly, finally, just before this runs out, what does this overall mean for women's sports in general? Obviously, great year with the World Cup coming up and everything. You're on a huge crest of a wave at the minute, but what does this mean?
It's so huge. It really is so huge. It's so monumental, and with anything like this event in Ireland, any big events that we have in the Three Arena or beyond, any big sporting events that we have, there's a ripple effect. And the ripple effect goes through, I'm here, I'm talking to you. This is the ripple effect of Katie fighting on Saturday night. There will be young girls, there will be young boys, there will be young kids that will look at this. They will see that, you know, they will see her journey, and they will feel and know that if they put in that work and they put in that effort into becoming great at whatever it is that they want to do, never mind an athlete, that it's achievable. You know, she's shown all the guys, you know, from the Gary Cullys, Kevin Agiarkis, Paddy Donovan, all these guys that are on the undercard with her. Kate Radomonska from Waterford is on the card as well. You know, it's shown them that the blueprint is there, that it's possible, and that there is a way and there is a route to having that yourself and to holding that in your hands. We didn't have that before. You know, there has been great Irish champions. You know, I can almost hear Brendan McGuigan in my ear right now, you know, and Bernard Dunn and all these amazing champions that have gone before, but no one has quite captured the Irish hearts like Katie has. And I really do feel it from all the work that I do in the community with young amateurs and the boxing gyms. It's the first thing they ask when I go in is, what's Katie Taylor like? Have you met Katie Taylor? Have you interviewed her? And it's such a pleasure to be able to say I have, and she is as amazing as you think she is. So it's just a huge night for Irish sports on Saturday night.